Greetings, scholars! Get ready for a close reading of 3005 by Childish Gambino. But first, the Videoly challenge. Which artist spoke these words? Yeah. So put your guesses in the comment section and I'll answer it in part 2. So if you haven't heard the song, it's awesome. I'll put a link right here. Just please come back after you're done. Don't leave me. Here's a little motivation before we get started. Because your English teacher probably tried to teach you the same stuff. But the problem is that she opened with the boring stuff instead of beginning by telling you why it's relevant to you. If she had started with something like, learn this and you'll be able to get rich and famous by expressing yourself, it would have worked a lot better. And that stuff is really possible, but you need some tools. So pay attention. The first thing you should do when analyzing a work of art is looking at the context. So I believe introductions are in order. Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, 32-year-old star of the hit series Community. His Because the Internet album had 96,000 sales in the first week. He has over 1.7 million Twitter followers and is worth over $4.5 million. He's an actor, comedian, rapper, singer, producer, songwriter, writer, and YouTuber. Yeah, big deal, but was he the first chair tuba in high school? It's also important that he writes in the hip-hop and R&B genre. And since he's so young, he's heavily influenced by the 21st century media, like these guys. But he also graduated from NYU with a degree in dramatic writing, so he has been classically trained to a certain extent. Putting pieces in context helps us accurately understand the piece, and it should be done first in general. This is because the meaning of words change based on the context, like, did you know the word clue used to be synonymous with a ball of yarn? In fact, this is why Scooby-Doo was almost a cat. The Clue Crew was originally a pun on the word clue, meaning a ball of yarn, is a made-up fact. The Scooby-Doo thing, not the yarn. The yarn thing's real, look it up. But the point is that we should read Childish differently than we should read Kant, or Emerson, or even Kanye. So let's go into the syntax, or how the song is organized. Let's look at the hook first. It's kinda like a limerick. Let me give you an example, and that means it's time for another top-notch impression. Hickory-dickory-dock, the mouse ran up the clock struck 1, and down he run, hickory-dickory-dock. Like most limericks, this song is meant to be funny. Now back to the hook. I'm gonna make some changes and see if I can blow your mind. Yep, get rid of that and add some of this. See, now we follow an AABBA rhyme scheme. We also follow the convention that the third and fourth line of the limerick are smaller than the others. And this is what a more standard limerick would look like. Not unlike the fresh bars Mother Goose dropped. But Gambino makes these two changes intentionally. He wants to show us that this is not a normal comedy. He wants the reader to hold up and not jump to conclusions. Most of the rest of the song does not follow any rigid structure, but there are some rhythmic consistencies in the verses. Check it out. I'll wait for my lovely assistant to finish. I'm going to split these into metric feet, and I'm also going to show a chart of different types of feet with the very advanced use of shoe imagery. So using this chart, it looks like these lines are in dactylic trimeter and dactylic dimeter. I'm ignoring the we and or BT dubs. We spend it with no shame. The repetition in the rhythm contrasts the free verse used in the rest of the poem. And this is probably why we paid attention to these lines so much when we're listening. But why is the structure so disorganized? Okay, so now that we talked about the structure, let's talk about the words he used, or as poets would say, his diction. Probably the most obvious effect is Gambino's use of assonance. Assonance. Assonance is a repetition of a sound without rhyming. Mufasa, Gaza, lava, viber. Notice that each of these words are connected to the next one with assonance, but the final word, bygones, is not even close to Mufasa. Have you ever been deep in thought and ended up going to some ridiculous tangent until you couldn't remember where you started? Or have you ever started looking up TED Talks on YouTube and ended up watching something like Maya He or Two-Legged Horse? The strange thing is that this doesn't happen as much when we're around other people. Sure, it happens a little, but having other people around usually corrals our thoughts to a certain extent. Let's look at some other word choices. So what do Dr. Mufasa, Gaza, and Viber have in common? Nothing, that's right. And that's my point. He's trying to show that he's feeling disoriented and a little bit confused. I'd hypothesize that it's because he feels a little lonely. But let's get to the bottom of it in part 2. Stick around, we'll get to the full meaning and answer that Videoly question. Stay tuned and subscribe.